Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today to present. Tonight, I'm going to be presenting two presentations to you. These presentations are in regard to committees that we have, K-12 committees that we're working on in the district. Our first presentation is about our K-12 District Leadership Committee for the multi-tiered systems of support. I'm going to start this presentation by turning it over to our in-house expert, Dr. Letitia Payne, who did her dissertation on MTSS, and she helps to lead this committee alongside her colleagues, the other assistant principals, Jamie Zecca, Carly Roby, as well as Melissa Estrella. So together, we help this committee come together to meet regularly and work on our multi-tiered systems of support throughout Putnam Valley. So, without further ado, Dr. Payne.
Thank you. So, multi-tiered systems of support. It's a tough word, a tough acronym to swallow. And when you think about it, it means almost exactly what it said. It's a tiered system of support. Most times when people see this word, they think special education. But it really is for all students. It's a system of support. It's not the system, it's all the systems that we do within our district for students academically, social emotionally, as well as behaviorally. So it's not a program, it's not a curriculum, it's all that we do to ensure that our students are doing well in school. I thank my colleagues because, when I first did my research study on it, it was called response to intervention. So most people know it as response to intervention, but it's not, it's more than that. We do more than just response to intervention. We actually work on enrichment as well for all students. So Jackie's gonna do the next slide to say, how did we bring it to the district? How did it come here? How did we build our systems of support?
Thank you, Letitia. So once again, I want to tip my hat to Letitia because when I first started in the district several years ago, she came to me right away and said, there's this really great program at PNW BOCES about developing a leadership team for this work. She explained the work to me. She explained what she was hoping to do. And together, we put together a group of folks who attended this training to become the leadership team that would begin the work. And so that was back in 2021, 2022, and they attended that leadership training, and then it was time for us to start implementing in our district, putting together a K-12 district-wide committee. We'll talk a little bit about who's on the committee in a moment. And then from there, our committee started just kind of bringing together folks from around the different buildings in different capacities and departments to be able to speak to and be the voice of what happens in our buildings, how are our tiers organized, what do we need to know, what kind of assessments do we use, et cetera. So through the 2022-2023 year, that was when we started that work. And it continued, and again, under Letitia's guidance and leadership, she organizes the meetings, plans the agenda, reminds everyone to bring something for the potluck, and all together helps to steer it forward and helps to make the work come alive. So throughout 23 and 24, we kind of streamlined our goals. What were we planning to do with this committee? What did we need this committee to do? All while Letitia's teaching the committee what they need to really understand and know so that we're all sharing a common language. So she also leads professional learning within this committee meeting so that we are all kind of understanding what exactly MTSS is, what it is not, and how this work is important to our district, why we need to be so cohesive. So she streamlines our processes, gets everyone on board, and then we set goals. And then this year has been all about communicating. Now that we know what we do in each of our buildings, we've really kind of narrowed it down. We're still refining it. It's a constant revision process because we're always learning more and new research is always coming out. But what Letitia is doing this year is helping us to streamline our communication, and alongside her team of the other assistant principals and Melissa, really delivering that message to everyone, our staff, our community, our board, et cetera. So that was kind of our journey to here. Would you like to?
So I want you to understand that it's not that MTSS was never here before I got here. Each building had its own MTSS or RTI team. And what we did was begin to align every single building and then align ourselves as an entire district. So when we created the MTSS district-wide team, we begin to look at each building and to begin to have a window into everybody's building and to see how we can transition from one building to the other. So when we say the what and the why of what we do, is we're making sure that we have an integrated system. We're making sure that we're aligning from elementary to middle school to high school to create a cohesive system that allows our students to transition throughout the district and grow. So that's really the purpose and the drive of what we do in MTSS.
So these are our goals for this year. For example, we'll be systematically gathering, analyzing, and applying our data to support our academic, social, and emotional development of our students, while fostering collaboration among our educators, our families, and the broader community. We're also going to be ensuring a data-driven approach that will inform and equip all students to support the individual and collective needs of students, improve educational outcomes, and create a nurturing and inclusive learning environment. And it's really an all approach, all teachers, all families, all community. We need to be in this together to be able to support our students in the multiple tiers and in their academic and behavioral needs for their best work to shine. So who is on our committee? We have administrators on our committee. I've named a few so far. Teachers, it was really important to us to have general education teachers as well as AIS and special education teachers representing. So again, while we keep our committee small and tight, we make sure that we have good representation from each of the buildings so that they can tell us boots on the ground exactly what's happening in the classrooms, exactly how data is analyzed and used, and exactly what forms of data we have available to us. And then of course our mental health clinical team, members like Judy, for example, from the high school, who's also one of our community liaisons, and Gina Fry, and so on. So we have wonderful people on this committee working together, and we meet about 5 times per year now. We started slowly. I think the first year we met 3 times, and we've been increasing each year to add more time in meetings because we realize the work is so robust that we need to meet more frequently. So I think next year I have put in that we are meeting 7 times. So. Ms. Roby is actually at the elementary school holiday party tonight, so I said you should really go and attend that with your staff. I can take on your slide for tonight, but I do want to make sure it's acknowledged that Carly Roby is an integral part of this team, and we'll just talk a little bit about what our elementary school has in place for our academic and behavioral supports. So at the Tier 1 level, it's the core instruction for grade level curriculum. It really is for all students, and it's differentiated for all students when it comes to whether it's small group instruction or the types of assessments we support our students given to all students. Teachers in their classroom are implementing within the classroom. So that's what's happening at the Tier 1 level in the elementary school. And behaviorally, again, there's a school-wide character ed incentives and expectations program, and the classroom expectations are set by the teacher. Everything happens within the classroom. It is the teacher who's delivering that Tier 1 support. Moving to Tier 2, if a teacher is suspecting there's issues with a student in some way, whether it's academically or behaviorally, there are assessment data that they're looking at saying, something's going on with a student, there might be something missing. Usually they're identifying specifically what that is. Sometimes they need the support of others to identify what that might be. So then these teachers bring these students forward to the RTI team to be able to meet, discuss the needs of the student, discuss what they're seeing, bring evidence of work, and then the team discusses strategies for the teacher to implement in the classroom or possible AIS academic intervention services that may be needed. And then moving on to Tier 3, where we realize, okay, we really have a student who's falling behind. Perhaps they're falling behind by a whole grade or more. They really need additional support. How are we identifying what it is they need? Again, coming back to the team, I tried those strategies. The strategies don't seem to be working. What else can we do for this student? And then the student may be brought forward for further identification from there. So that's our Tier 3 at our elementary school.
Good evening, everyone. So in our middle school, we piggyback on everything that was on the elementary school slide, but in addition to that, I just wanted to mention that one thing that we do academically is our iReady as our universal screener. So all of our kids are taking a reading or a math diagnostic, and because it's giving us data, and we use it 3 times a year, something like that is essential to our kids, even though, like, as soon as we say iReady, we get some frowns and some grunts and groans, but it is actually our measure of where are our kids, what levels are they at? What kind of supports do they need? Tier 1 is everything that's happening in the classroom. A student needs to move forward to the board because they're having a problem seeing, or they need just that proximity, or hey, this student I noticed is having trouble with X, so I'm going to sit with them in a small group and I'm going to help them in the classroom. It's the same thing with behavior. Sometimes it's, hey, I just need to talk to the student because a mistake was made and they didn't really truly understand, and let's make things better. Sometimes we call that remind and reset. Hey, remind you what the expectations are. Reset, let's try again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a fresh day. With Tier 2, that's when our students, based usually academically on our iReady results, will move into something like an AIS program. They may need more support than what's happening just in the classroom. We do use multiple measures, so it's not just iReady, but iReady is a great baseline for us to utilize, and we can track their growth. We collect data as teams. Travis and I meet with our teachers weekly. Once a month is specifically for data and talking about data. For example, if we're moving into behavior, something that our clinicians do, our guidance counselor specifically, is lunch bunch. So even though they're doing our SEL classes and seeing larger groups of students, lunch bunch is a nice way of pulling in a smaller group and really getting to know who those kids are. For Tier 3, that's when there's a little bit more intensive. So we are noticing that someone's struggling, whether it be academically or behaviorally, and they need more than what we're providing. So we would come together as a team and try to figure out what are those pieces. Families are integral in every single step of the process. Outreach is so important. It's really important for all families to know, hey, this is where my child is, and these are the supports they're getting or they might need. Thank you.
So before I share about high school, some key points that both of my colleagues shared was, when we talk about data, it can be our universal screeners. It can also be the cumulative knowledge of the colleagues that you have, right? So in looking at the RTI teams that might be at the elementary schools that they have weekly, or the clinicians that meet at the high school. In our building at in the middle school, in the high school, we have something called the student support team. And what we do is we meet as clinicians, the school nurse, and the building principal and assistant principal to talk about where is our what is the mental health of our building? Where are our students, where are our critical students at that moment? And once a month, we're meeting to discuss where we are. And then bi-weekly, we're also talking about kids, right? So we thought that was a good implementation that we did. But we did that over time. When I first came into the building, that wasn't something that we did. We had the RTI model that we had where we were just working on a 3-week monitoring process. But as we saw that we wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, we developed over time. So even as you see our leaders in the different buildings, you'll see that it's a continuous improvement process. You may not have the same models that you have this year, next year, because you're taking in that data. You're taking in all the information that you have from year to year and making improvements year to year. So right now at the high school, at the academic level, yes, we have our classes that incorporate our high-level core curriculum. We have our IB, we have our AP, we have all our different types of classes. But then they also integrate all types of learners. We make sure that we can incorporate English language learners within our classrooms. We have our ENL teachers in the classroom. So how do we differentiate instruction in that Tier 1 to best support them right at the core level? And then, like AIS in the middle school, there's not very many schools that have an AIS type program the way that we have one in the high school. So what we have is the Achievement Center. So students are able, when we see a concern, to say, how are they going to get their supports? And we have a class built into their schedule that will be able to support them. So they're not being pulled out, which sometimes that happens, where you have to pull kids out of classes to get support. Now they have it where they are built into their schedule in order to receive those levels of support. And then Tier 3 is where they get that most intensive support, where they might get more of that achievement center, maybe more times a week, or you might have to develop a plan for that student individually. And like Jamie said, we have to build our parents into the process from the tier 1. You don't start at tier 3 to have parents a part of the process. So you start at tier 1, that they should be coming along with you all along the way. We definitely, on the behavior side, have Aspire. That has been here from the beginning, and we use that to spotlight students, but we also use it to help and support them as they grow in understanding how they would operate within the school setting. We also are including dialectical behavioral therapy, another acronym that we have in education, and really what that is a program that we can use as tier 1. We're developing, what do we call it, Mr. Mello? Is it Mindful Mondays, where we're going to be able to have the whole school have mindfulness throughout, the school building on Mondays, and incorporate making sure that everyone's in it together. But then when students need additional support, you might have those small group models on the tier 2 level, and maybe some individual support on the tier 3 level. So it's always developing. That's what you should walk away with, knowing that MTSS, it doesn't stop at what we say here tonight. It will develop over time as we see the needs for students.
Letitia, all of you have talked about the incredible work that teachers are doing to meet students where they are and to provide the correct instructional model for them or the correct instructional level. But I'd also like to mention, I think we have incredible teaching faculty, but we also have tremendous CSEA teaching assistants and teacher aides who are, I guess, instructed by the teacher as to how to apply those strategies, and they can work directly with children.
Correct.
So, I just think that the combination of teachers, teaching assistants, teacher aides is a powerful thing. And I think the district's done a really good job of making sure that those people are in classrooms to help children.
Yeah, very, very powerful. And I know when I was a classroom teacher, they were called teachers. They weren't just, they weren't teaching assistants, because they were directly teaching and supporting students in small groups, and they had the assistance of learning from the teacher in order to maybe, learn a program and then be able to impart it to a student. So yes, they're definitely an integral part of growing the students. Next steps.
So we are going to continue our work with our MTSS committee year to year, and continuing this year communicating with everyone the importance of this work, the plan in full. It's been posted to our website, and continuing to make sure our community and our families are familiar with the acronym, as well as what those tiers mean and how they are a part of those those tiers. We're going to continue to utilize something called the MTSS Fidelity Rubric. There is an actual rubric in place that helps us to assess our progress as a team and our cohesion as a team, and gives us guidance for where we may need to go next, what we may need to do in addition, what we may have gaps in, again, as a team and as we're forming our plan. So that is something that we'll continue to use. Letitia has introduced that to the team, taught them about it, again, incorporating that professional learning into the committee meetings, and having the team really be an integral part in assessing ourselves in each of the areas that they represent. So that's where we'll be heading next. Yes?
Quick question. I noticed that on Tier 3, a student who's having difficulty at that level, there are meetings recommended for the parents in the middle school and high school, but I don't see that reference for the elementary school.
Yes, there are definitely meetings for the parents. The parents are a huge part all the way from the very beginning of the child's journey in school at the elementary school. So the parents are included in those meetings, as well as meetings as early. I mean, when you think about parent-teacher conferences and things like that, that's where those needs and concerns are arising, as well as prior to parent-teacher conferences. Usually teachers have a really good eye for their data and what's going on with the children in front of them, and start contacting parents as soon as they see a concern or a worry, just so that it's on the parents' radar as much as it's on theirs. And that conversation continues through parent-teacher conferences, and then later on in those meetings, if meetings are needed.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
How are the MTSS plans for students passed up through the building, so that as they transfer to another building, there's communication about what interventions have been tried, what has worked, what did not perhaps work, and how to build upon those plans as they transition.
It's a great question. We have transition meetings. So for an example, our 4th and 5th grade teachers meet. Margaret and Carly are a huge part of that, as well as Travis and Jamie. I believe Jamie was part of that meeting last year, where they sit and they listen to the different needs of the students that are coming forward. Our 4th grade teachers do an amazing job of sharing details of each of the students so that the 5th grade understands who's coming to them and what they need as individuals, not only students who may be having struggles or difficulties, but all students are important to be talked about at that meeting. So those transition meetings are important. We've also been, there wasn't always a system for sharing data from 8th to 9th grade, so Letitia and I and Matt have been working on making sure that data is transferred to the high school so that the high school can see the students coming up, and I believe they also have meetings with the middle school about those 8th grade students coming up to 9th grade. So we have those transition meetings, and then any important information files, paperwork is passed along, but those in-person meetings are so important to really convey what's happening with students and what they need to know.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Looking forward to you guys presenting again to letting us know what the positives are, what worked, what the challenges you had, and how you're continuing to move this forward. So great work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to really give a nod to these wonderful ladies here. They are a powerhouse. All of the folks that are helping me to lead this work, they have just done tremendous work in creating the plan, guiding our teachers and colleagues in developing the plan, and guiding this work forward. So I just can't say enough about Letitia, Jamie, Carly, and the work they've done, but in particular also Letitia for leading the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.